Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Guess what it's doing again? Snowing. Wonderful. And I got my windshield wipers on. I got my defroster on. It just started snowing right before I got in the car on my way to work again. I've been trying to edit the first two videos, and my computers have been really giving me a fucking issue. My beard looks funny. My beard looks funny this morning. It's because put a hair tie in it last night after I got out of the shower. My beard was still wet, and I fell asleep with the hair tie in it, and it was one of my daughter's hair ties. So it's not like I bought hair ties specifically for my beard, but this is the lazy man's way of getting snow off your windows. Just roll them down, roll them back up. So, I'm going to work today. Today's usually one of my days off, but I'm taking my daughter down to New York City in a couple of days. So today is usually a day that I would have off, that I would have with my daughter, but it's not. So I'm coming into work today. It's the 3rd of the month, and in my store, the 1st of the month and the 3rd of the month, like many stores that are in poor areas, are really busy, because the 1st and the 3rd of the month is when people get their benefits, their SSI and DSS and Social Security, and some people get their welfare and stuff like that. So the 1st and the 3rd of the month, just the beginning of the month in general, at my store is really, really busy, and because it's in the ghetto. I mean, what is it? An economically depressed urban area. It's the ghetto, the fucking ghetto. And and it has nothing. Don't think I'm trying to make this into a racist thing. I grew up around poor people. I grew up lower middle class. I grew up literally across the street from the projects. So all my friends I grew up with were poor. And with that being said, none of us were criminals. None of us turned into thieves. Low lives. I mean, people from our neighborhood. I mean, I grew up around people that I know that went to jail. My brother's, one of my brother's closest friends went to jail, and then my brother became a sergeant. My brother became a police officer, NYPD. He's a sergeant now, or he could quite possibly be a lieutenant. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. I work in the ghetto. I've always worked in bad neighborhoods. I used to work in a check cashing place in downtown Manhattan, and it was the perfect storm of lowlives and degenerates. It was a block away from, now mind you, it was a check cashing place. The only people who go to check cashing places are people who don't have bank accounts, because of bad bank accounts they wouldn't waste money on getting their checks cashed, because that's what it is. It's really a way for people to, those places make money because people don't have bank accounts. Poor people tend to have bank accounts. So it was across the street from the off-track betting, people who gamble on the horses or dogs or whatever the case may be. It was across the street from a methadone clinic, so that was fun. Feeling, and I don't care what color of skin you have, whether you're peach or you're brown or you're tan or yellow. Most methadone junkies, or people on methadone, it's probably unfortunate. I shouldn't say junkies. That's really a nasty and rude thing to say. But people on methadone who've gotten to that point of the heroin use, their skin turns very gray, like a top layer. It's like all dead skin. It's very weird. But you can see a methadone. You could see. I'm just gonna use it. You can see a methadone junkie from a mile away. Doesn't matter what color skin there is. They're all gray. It's all like dead skin on top. Their faces look bloated. Even if they're thin, their faces look bloated. Looks like the skin is coming off their skeleton or something like that. So I used to work in a check cashing place, and then also in that area were a bunch of jewelry stores, which the late 80s, early 90s, and actually the mid 90s, right before like Giuliani became the big thing. I mean, jewelry stores were known for, at least the ones down in my old neighborhood, were known for, if someone snatched your chain on the subway, they could go and sell it to the jewelry store, and the jewelry stores really didn't care, because they would buy it from the chain snatchers for nowhere near what it was actually worth, and then sell it. If you bought it for half the price and sold it for double the price, because unfortunately there's people who feel that they have to wear gold, especially in that day and age. When you're poor, wearing gold is very important. It's a weird status thing. I never fell into. I mean, I used to wear a wedding band. Every now and then I'd wear a gold chain. I tend to wear things that look, I wear more like stainless steel type chains. Even when I don't even wear chains that often, but when I did, I was never a gold person. But you could tell someone that wears a lot of gold is someone who was poor at one point, or comes from a poor family or something like that. And then, so like I said, I work in the ghetto, and I have to deal with, and it's funny. And then after that, after the check cashing place, then I had a couple other jobs here and there, but then I ended up being a correction officer for New York State. And when you're dealing with low lives, what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong, you do feel, when you live and see these people for 8 hours a day, you do become a little more suggestible to the situation, a little more, I don't want to say, you feel a little compassion for them, but it was low lives. These are people who got caught. These are people that weren't smart enough and got caught. So I was a correction officer for a little while. 10 years. Here we go. And then now the job I have now. I mean, I used to work at a Radio Shack, and they're going out of business, so good for them. Fuck Radio Shack, because they were horrible to me as an employee who was all there for customer service. They say at the time, they want customer service, and obviously they don't. They want sales. I mean, they wouldn't be a company that lasted as long as they did if they weren't about profit. But to the point where, it's just a shifting. It's just a shifting. It's a shifting market, and things change, and people aren't buying transistors and resistors and diodes, and people aren't buying little electronic knickknacks. So they shifted their focus to cell phones, and then that was the big push, cell phones. So, and you wonder why cell phones cost so much. And I'll be honest with you, the reason they cost so much is because everybody gets a kickback. If you're an employee at Radio Shack at that time, you would get $5 or $10 or $15. There's always sort of incentives to sell. And my thing, was that obviously the store managers got a cut, the district manager got a cut, everybody got a cut. So for a business that's usually so tight with their money, for them to give you a $5 or $15 bonus, I could only imagine what the big shots are getting. If those are the size of the crumbs that they were giving us, and I said not big, $5 isn't big, but I mean, if you happen to have a good week, or if you happen to have Radio Shack in a poor area, you actually did pretty good, because surprise, surprise, poor areas do very good when it comes to cell phone sales, because there are people who don't want contracts, so they get the contract phones, or people who are driven by status, who even though they live with their mother and they're on welfare, they want to they want to have the newest phone, which at the time was like the Evo, and for the first couple of iPhone, we finally got the iPhone contract around the time the iPhone 4 came out, and so there's people who really do put their status in all material goods when you really, and if you look at their home life, like, dude, we live in a fucked up area. You know, you have a job that doesn't pay very well. You know, how are you spending all this money on extravagances? You know, when you drive through the ghetto and you see guys with fucking driving a Lexus or some other, like, you know, relatively luxurious car, and you're like, how the fuck? I work a 40-hour week, or I don't, but I mean, I should be working a 40-hour week, and I have, you know, a halfway passable car. How the fuck do you have this luxury car? What are you doing for that money? You know, and of course, you know, if you don't have a legitimate source of income, you can apply for public assistance, and then with the money that you do get, usually off the books or made illegally, you can go and use that money on extravagancies and show the world how much of the man you are when, you know, you're driving a fucking nice car and wearing, you know, $200 sneakers, and you wear gold and brand name clothes. But